The relationship between slavery and income tax in the United States is deeply intertwined with the country's economic and political history. From the earliest debates on taxation in the Second Continental Congress to the introduction of the 16th Amendment, the way the government taxed its citizens was shaped by the economic interests of slave-holding states. In 1775, as the colonies fought for independence, delegates gathered to discuss how to fund the war effort. Many Southern representatives, heavily invested in slavery, resisted tax policies that could count enslaved people as part of the population for taxation purposes. This led to the infamous 3/5 Compromise, which counted enslaved individuals as 3/5 of a person for both representation and taxation. The compromise ensured that Southern states had more political power while limiting their tax burden. Throughout the 19th century, taxation debates continued to reflect the economic divide between the North and South. Southern states, reliant on slave labor, opposed federal taxes that disproportionately affected their agricultural economies. The federal government primarily relied on tariffs, taxes on imported goods, to generate revenue, which benefited Northern manufacturers but hurt Southern plantation owners who depended on foreign trade. The Civil War changed everything. In 1862, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Revenue Act, introducing the first federal income tax to help fund the Union war effort. This tax primarily targeted wealthier individuals, many of whom were plantation owners in the South. The abolition of slavery disrupted the Southern economy, leading to new tax policies aimed at rebuilding infrastructure. However, many former slaveholder elites resisted taxation, fearing it would redistribute wealth and empower newly freed Black citizens. After the war, the federal government struggled to enforce tax collection in the South. Many wealthy landowners found ways to avoid paying, using loopholes and political influence to shield their assets. This resistance contributed to tax aversion, a sentiment that persists in American political culture today. By the early 20th century, the government needed a more reliable source of revenue. In 1913, the 16th Amendment was ratified, establishing the modern federal income tax system. While slavery had been abolished, the legacy of tax policies favoring wealthy elites remained. Southern lawmakers continued to push for tax structures that minimized burdens on landowners and businesses while shifting costs onto lower-income workers. Historians like Robin Einhorn have explored how tax aversion in the U.S. is directly linked to slavery, particularly in Southern states that resisted taxation out of fear it would redistribute wealth and undermine their economic power. Early federal tax policies were designed to accommodate the interests of slaveholders, reinforcing economic disparities that persisted long after slavery was abolished. Federal tax laws continued evolving, but the influence of slave-era economic priorities never fully disappeared. During Reconstruction, tax policy was used as a tool for wealth preservation among former slaveholding elites. Many Southern states implemented poll taxes, which disproportionately burdened Black citizens and kept them from voting, ensuring political control remained in the hands of the wealthy. Another critical piece of this history is that early federal tax policies were colorblind, yet pro-slavery, meaning they avoided explicitly mentioning slavery while still benefiting slave-holding states. By the 20th century, federal tax debates reflected racial and economic inequalities baked into U.S. history. Southern lawmakers resisted federal tax expansion, arguing that progressive taxation threatened their economic dominance. The rise of corporate tax loopholes, agricultural subsidies, and tax havens can be traced back to efforts by wealthy elites, many of whom descended from the old planter class, to maintain financial advantages. Interestingly, emancipation itself may have generated one of the largest economic gains in U.S. history, with researchers estimating it contributed between 4% and 35% of GDP. This contradicts earlier claims that slavery was economically efficient, showing that ending forced labor actually boosted overall economic productivity. Even today, the echoes of these historical tax debates can be seen in discussions about wealth inequality, tax loopholes, and federal revenue distribution. The way the U.S. tax system evolved was shaped by the economic interests of slaveholders, and its effects still linger in modern policy decisions. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.